The pursuit of peace with North Korea. President Trump reiterating plans yesterday for a summit with Kim Jong Un focused on denuclearization talks. However, during his news conference yesterday at Mar-a-Lago, the president said there is one way that the meeting could get scrapped.
I hope to have a very successful meeting. If we don't think it's going to be successful, Mark, we won't have it. We won't have it. If I think that it's a meeting that is not going to be fruitful, we're not going to go. If the meeting, when I'm there, is not fruitful, I will respectfully leave the meeting.
Joining us this morning is former Army Commander in Iraq and Afghanistan, Colonel J. Voorhees. Colonel, how significant potentially is this diplomatic breakthrough?
Well, obviously, nobody prays for peace and a diplomatic solution more than a soldier. So I think it's a move in the right direction. But also, I think President Trump is just setting the tone that, hey, if you're looking for concessions just for coming to the table, that's not going to happen. So I think he's continuing to be strong. I think it's important that he does not back down because Kim Jong Un is a bully, and he is responding to pressure and pain economically with all the sanctions, and that's what's making it happen. So I think at the end of the day, he's setting the tone that we're just not coming here to talk and give you concessions. We want some concrete results, and I think it's a good thing, Dagan.
Colonel Steve Forbes is here with a question.
Colonel, do you think the North Koreans are going to push to have the U.S. pull its troops out of South Korea as part of a deal? Is that the part of their hidden agenda?
Steve, it's great to talk to you this morning. It's been that way for a long time. The North Koreans have used the leverage of the nuclear weapons to keep themselves in power, but there's absolutely no doubt that they do not want the U.S. presence on the peninsula. And I think that is the red line, if you will, with President Trump. He's not going to give in to it. But of late, I think, again, with some of the pressure, not backing down, and also the military threat, the real military threat, I think maybe Kim Jong Un is reconsidering that. But at the end of the day, he does not want that presence there. It's not good for his power. It's not good for his regime. And ultimately, he doesn't want us there.
Colonel, it's Robert Wolf. Thank you for everything you've done. Just a question. Do you think that lifting sanctions and kind of opening the markets is going to be enough for them to denuclearize?
Now, I think the key player in this whole arrangement, well, two things. The threat of the nuclear, the going to war, and the destruction of North Korea, as terrible as that would be, has got his attention. The other main player here is China. China is the big influencer on North Korea, and I think that's the big key. And I just don't think they're ready to denuclearize right now. I really am concerned that, again, this is just another attempt to buy some time, and I think that's why President Trump is sending the message that if you're not serious, we're going to back away.
Colonel, do you think what's going to be the attitude of the South Korean president, who's known as a dove? Is he going to be willing to make more concessions than Donald Trump? And how do we make sure we're not fighting each other while we're trying to negotiate?
It's a great point. There's no doubt that, that there are two opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to President Moon and President Trump, and it's a little dicey. At the end of the day, though, President Moon is the one that has to look out for the best interests of South Korea, so he's going to push for some kind of concessions that might be a little bit weaker than what President Trump wants. The good thing is, again, I think it's a very positive thing that for the first time, President Trump, an American president, is going to sit down with Kim Jong Un and have talks. The diplomatic solution is absolutely the way to go with all of our other instruments of national power, and the military solution needs to be the absolute last resort in this case.
Meantime, there are new questions, speaking of North Korea, surrounding CIA Director Mike Pompeo's secret mission to North Korea just a short while ago. He's currently facing a Senate fight over his nomination as Secretary of State. He failed to disclose the trip to Pyongyang during his confirmation hearing. Colonel, what do you see with this issue? Because, again, there's a lot of pushback from the Democrats. Democrats on the Foreign Relations Committee, all but one, have said we're voting no on this. It would be unheard of in the last, basically, century that a Secretary of State nominee did not get a favorable vote, a vote of favorability out of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. What do you make of all of this?
Yeah, what I make is it's kind of sad, Dagan. I mean, we're politicizing everything right now. The fact that Mr. Pompeo made that trip is a good thing. But, you know, it's almost like, depending on what side of the aisle you're sitting, if it would have been on the other side, it would have been a good thing for the Democrats if somebody might have traveled over and had a meeting. And it's just craziness. The bottom line is this. Again, we need to push for a diplomatic solution. The fact that Mr. Pompeo met with Kim Jong Un is a good thing. And I don't think anybody could deny it when you remove all the politics. So it is, in my opinion, sad. You know, we want to use all of our instruments of national power, information, economic, and diplomatic before we use the military one. And I think it's really sad that we're using this as a political tool when it comes to confirming a Secretary of State. That's just my opinion.
Colonel, great to see you this morning. Great to see you always. Colonel Jay Voorhees, and thank you for your service. Thanks to everyone who's ever served in these armed forces. Take care, Colonel.
Good to see you guys this morning.